Who knew that something as generic as generosity could transform your marriage? It has the potential to increase marital quality, make conflict resolution easier, increase your own happiness, help you to see other people's perspectives, decrease divorce risk. Basically, makes everything better except for my poor finger.
The Marriage Podcast for Smart People is designed to help busy couples like yourselves move away from conflict and unhappiness to build a marriage you'll love today and treasure for a lifetime. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Learn how you can help save marriages, prevent divorces, and keep families intact by going to oyf.support. Once again, that website is oyf.support. And now, here are your hosts, Caleb and Verlynda Simone Gandel from Only You Forever.
Welcome to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. If you want to build a thriving, passionate marriage, we've got the research, the truth, and the answers you're looking for. We have a transformational episode for you this week. It's episode number 220. And today we're going to be talking about how adding some generosity could transform your marriage into something even better than it already is.
Hey there, before we get started, if you missed last week's episode, we discussed what to do when you're in an abusive marriage and the people around you don't see it. Worth going back and checking out for sure. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming shows from us.
And as always, if you're struggling with your marriage, we offer sound, research-based advice. And most of all, we offer hope. Today, we're offering some variety. So I injured my finger, and while that's not exactly life-threatening, like, for example, a man cold would be, I'm not supposed to type.
Sorry, go ahead.
Next week's episode is on empathy. So this week, Verlynda's gone through the research and she's written up this podcast episode. So it's going to be amazing. So I need you all to leave a bunch of 1-star reviews so that I don't feel
Caleb?
like...
No, you need to leave like 5-star reviews. Because wasn't it just last week we had someone asking for more input from me?
Yes, but I'm worried about my job security.
Yeah, right. Nice try.
All right.
Here we are.
Here's more input from Verlynda. All right, take it away, girl. This is going to be amazing.
All right. So today we're on the topic of generosity. So I thought, I would be more like you and I would go into some boring definitions to start with. Sorry. So what is generosity?
Maybe this topic is on insulting your husband.
No, it's not really. So yeah, while the definitions sometimes are boring, they really do lay the foundation for looking at how generosity affects marriage. Why are you looking at me like that?
Because this is fun. It's like it's like role reversal.
I know, and I'm like sweating already.
I know, it's awesome.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, don't make fun of me, okay? Or don't laugh at me. Don't even look at me.
I'm laughing at something else.
You just lied.
Yeah, I did. Okay, let's go.
Okay, marital generosity is defined as giving good things to one's spouse freely and abundantly.
Okay.
So it's actually considered a marital virtue.
Yes.
So that's a character trait and personal strength which naturally leads a person to act in ways that are good for the marriage.
Right.
So more practically speaking, within marriage, generosity can be seen as investing in the relationship with behaviors such as putting your spouse's needs above your own and freely giving of your time and effort and energy without any thought of personal gain.
Sounds very altruistic.
What does that mean?
Like for the benefit of others and not yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But it does have some reciprocal benefits, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And we're going to get down to that a little bit
I mean,
later.
I'd like to think that all of us are, perfectly altruistic.
Yeah.
But sometimes we do things for our spouse with some, it's generous, but there's a little bit of selfish motivation going on there.
Yeah. And you know what? That kind of leads us to our next point here.
Yep.
I think it's obvious to say that generosity will have a positive impact on marriage.
Right.
But I thought what was neat was it had a positive impact both for the person acting generously and for their spouse.
Ah.
So it's a total win-win.
Sweet. Okay. All right. You're selling me on it.
So generosity often feels good and satisfying personally. And it also increases your spouse's happiness and makes them more likely to act generously in return. So even though generosity shouldn't be motivated by personal gain, you still do benefit from it.
Is it okay if it's a little bit motivated by personal gain?
Well, I'm sure other people would be, but you are so sacrificial and altruistic that I'm sure it would never enter your mind to have any personal gain in there.
So our next episode is on sarcasm.
I'm being serious.
Were you?
Yeah.
I was sure you were being sarcastic.
Oh, no, I think you are.
Come on.
I was kind of making fun of you a little bit.
Okay, so yeah.
But I was being serious about what I was saying. Anyways, back to the research, Caleb. Here's some research for you so you can feel
I'm still trying to interpret what just happened
again.
there. Okay, keep going.
Okay, generosity increases marital satisfaction for both spouses.
Yep.
Reduces marital conflict.
That's good.
And is negatively correlated with the risk of divorce.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. And these effects are true for both husbands and wives, but normally more pronounced in women.
If the guys are generous.
Yeah.
So women receive more of a benefit from generosity than
men do.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So I think that, maybe women need to step up the plate here and be a little bit more generous.
Well,
because it doesn't affect the husband in the same way. Like you need to give a little bit more to get the same outcome. What do you think?
This could be a reflection of male privilege because we kind of slack off and take things for granted.
Oh, well, then men need to step up the generosity.
Your body language, everybody missed that on the audio, but she just crossed her arms and got all righteous on me.
Oh, okay.
So no, but yeah.
So both of us, both male and female, who wouldn't want to add a little more generosity into the repertoire? It does nothing but good.
Amen. Bingo. Nailed it.
So another cool thing, generous acts also serve to protect the marriage from stresses such as financial pressure.
Okay.
Right? And this isn't like being generous with the money necessarily. This is just acts of kindness, your time, your effort, putting your spouse above yourself, right? So these researchers in 2017 found that a husband's levels of generosity mediated the link between economic hardship and his wife's level of marital quality.
Huh. I think that's got to be just a different mindset, in there.
Yeah.
There's got to be, I think there's a shift in mindset that's representing away from what's important as material as much as what's important is how we experience each other and give to each other.
Yeah.
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 Huh. So then there's not as much pressure on having everything. What I like about that is you can reduce your financial pressure without having to change your job or get an education or.
Yeah. And so if you're going through financial hardship or economic hardship, this is the time to work on generosity.
Okay. And we're going to define what generosity is in sort of real tangible ways shortly here, right?
Yeah. And that's what's really interesting about this. It's related to specific acts that a person does for their spouse.
Okay.
But it's also a state of mind which affects how they see and relate to the world. And that's right in the research. This isn't something that I just made up. I'm sure everybody can probably already tell that. But both aspects are important. So let's talk about the acts or behaviors, and then we'll look into the mind piece.
Yes.
Which will be right up your alley, and you can dissect us all in whatever you do.
Ooh, sounds like fun.
So acts of generosity.
Yep.
So there are 4 key ways that the research gives to show generosity to one's spouse. So these are small, everyday acts of kindness. Can you think of an example?
Doing the dishes for your wife or
putting the laundry away or
getting her a coffee.
Putting the toilet seat down.
Why are we all thinking of stuff that men can do?
I said putting the laundry away. I could do that. I could make the coffee.
Okay, that's good. Just concerned about reverse discrimination.
Oh, you poor thing. Okay, so small everyday acts of kindness.
Yep.
Expressions of respect.
Right.
Which we've been really good at modeling so far.
Yep.
Displays of affection.
Oh, yeah. We've had some of that today already off the show.
Thank you. And willingness to forgive.
Yep.
Right? Just being generous, giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, I like that one.
Mm-hmm. So these...
Well, not even necessarily giving them the benefit of the doubt, but when they do screw up, not just lording it over them for the rest of the day because, you're bad, so therefore you will serve me and I will feel angry and more righteous and more of a person than you. But actually just, forgiving them and kind of getting on with it.
Forget.
Well,
we don't really forget.
Forgive and
move on.
Reconcile. Yep.
Reconcile. There we go too. Okay. So these 4 kinds of generosities that we just listed here.
Yep.
They're linked to higher marital satisfaction for both spouses.
Yep.
Reduced conflict, reduced divorce risk.
Yep.
And I know we have more of these in the bonus guide, Caleb. Why don't you give us an insight into what potential transformation this great guide offers for our much appreciated supporters?
Yeah. Okay. So this bonus guide is really cool today because it takes the topic of generosity and it applies it to Gary Chapman's 5 love languages. So, we've talked about the love languages before and had a cautionary note there, but a lot of people really do resonate with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they know what their love language is, or your spouse has probably told you this and maybe you're not quite sure how to speak that language because it's not yours.
Yep.
Well, this guide will help you step through making a relevant application of generosity to her or his preferred love language. So whatever the language is, it gives you ideas kind of in each category of how you can speak to that language through this principle of generosity.
So here's some tips.
I mean, this is making it real, people.
That's awesome.
Implementation. So you can get this by becoming a patron of the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. We'll just take a quick 60-second break to tell you more about that.
What happens when the fairy tale marriage meets reality? Too often, high expectations lead to disappointment, communication breaks down, and the struggles of day-to-day life become overwhelming, leaving you feeling lost and without hope. Unfortunately, marriage does not come with an instruction manual. Marriage troubles are deeply personal and can take a toll on you, your spouse, and your family. Counseling can be expensive and divorce is very costly. It doesn't have to be this way. Caleb and Verlynda understand your pain and frustration. Their mission is to help save as many marriages as possible, and to date, thousands of couples are helped through their weekly podcast. But the most important marriage they want to help save is yours. With a minimum of a $10 investment a month, you gain access to exclusive bonus content and valuable information to help you succeed in your own marriage. Learn more about saving marriages and how you can help at oyf.support. That's oyf.support.
You're listening to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. Before the break, we were talking about the ways to show generosity, as in the actual acts or behaviors. And just before we move into the mental side of generosity, I wanted to touch on one more thing, Caleb. Household labor. This is actually singled out and commented on in the research. Another important area that marital generosity impacts. So researchers in 2013 found a link between generosity and willingness to share household and child care labor. So deciding to share these jobs fairly, rather than just, doing them out of obligation, led to couples seeing each other as more generous,
right,
which led to higher marital quality.
Yep. Now that we've hit that before too, that do you remember the household work episode? It was the critical part was not actually splitting the work 50-50, but it was the perceived fairness of the division of labor.
Yes.
Because everybody's situation is a little bit different as to how much, outside work and inside work they do and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, okay. So it's linked to generosity.
And here is an example in our own life. I'm going to blow your horn here, Caleb.
Oh, okay.
So,
I like that. That's good.
The other day when I hadn't got the dishes done and I'd done a ton of baking and the counter was piled full.
Overfull.
Yeah, I know. I felt really bad and I was feeling so bad about it. And I just wanted to get started. But after supper, you just started in washing.
Yep.
And it was totally unnecessary as I had made all the mess. But you were so generous with your time and your wrinkly dishpan hands. And you finished them all for me. Sorry, I shouldn't have made fun of you while I was complimenting you. I'm sorry.
The guys at church are going to be like, oh, show me your wrinkly dishpan hands.
But that was total generosity.
Okay.
I'm quite sure our marital quality went up. Anyways, household labor is another way to show generosity, which will increase your marital quality. You
know what? I just figured out how to become a millionaire.
How?
If you could have wrinkly dishpan hand cream or something. You just put it on and it's oh, you look so sexy.
No, you actually have to do the dishes.
Oh, okay. I get it now.
If you could invent some cream, Caleb, for anti-wrinkly dishpan hands.
Also have his and hers.
You would make way more money. Just saying. Okay. Acts of generosity we talked about, but on to the mind, a generous mind.
Yes.
Having a generous personality or mindset positively affects marriage through the way it causes you to see your spouse and the way it motivates you to act. So it causes you to be other-centered. Generous people are naturally other-centered.
Right. Instead of self-centered?
Yeah. So they think more in terms of other people than about their own needs.
Those sound like interesting folks.
Wouldn't it be nice to get to know them?
We need more of these people in our life.
So this means that a generous spouse is better able to perceive and respond to his or her spouse's needs, and they're more motivated to think about their spouse's needs before their own.
Okay.
And a generous mindset also makes it easier to see other people's perspectives, making it easier to resolve disagreement.
I like that.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to be more generous after hearing that? But Caleb, it gets even better.
Oh, this is amazing.
That was sarcastic right there.
No, this is good.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
So other-centered is one, and then seeing the best in people. Generosity.
Generous demonstration of forgiveness on my wife's part there, by the way.
I didn't even notice.
Well, you forgave me because you thought I was sarcastic, but then it bounced right back.
Oh, good. Well, I was just seeing the best in you.
Oh, seeing the best, yes.
Generosity also allows a person to view their spouse in a more positive way. So instead of assuming the worst about them, that you were being sarcastic, you just assume the best.
Right. It's like giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So, for example, if your spouse snaps at you, a generous interpretation would be that they obviously had a bad day, rather than thinking that they're just an angry person. And I think we've talked about this in previous episodes. Is it called the confirmation bias?
Well, confirmation bias is where you see what you want to see, kind of.
Oh, and then their acts kind of reinforce.
So if you want to see your spouse as a jerk, you'll kind of highlight all the jerky points and leave out the good points.
Okay.
If you want to see your spouse as generous, you'll highlight the generous points and leave out the jerky moments.
Okay.
It is so, but it does, you're right, it is tied in.
But it's a little bit different.
Yeah, the only caveat I'd throw in here is not to, so in a healthy, functional marriage, this is good.
Yeah.
But in a dysfunctional marriage, you might justify a lot of bad behavior on your spouse's part, where you may need to actually set a boundary or hold them a little bit accountable.
Yes.
If it's safe to do so, to say, you know what, like, I get that you had a bad day at work, but it's not acceptable for you to take that out on me.
Right.
Right.
And I think maybe that's where patterns come in a little bit too.
Yeah. So this is more probably for the odd moment kind of thing. It's like, oh,
had a bad day.
Yeah. And just kind of, he'll come around in an hour or she'll be fine.
Right. Here,
shortly.
eat some ice cream.
Hey,
Sorry.
You're like exposing all my flaws publicly.
Yeah. But this willingness to look for the best in your spouse makes forgiveness and conflict resolution easier.
True
which kind of makes sense, right? Because if I think, oh my goodness, you're such an angry person, I'm going to be all snarky.
Yeah, it feels more hopeless even though.
Yeah.
Like, why bother talking to this guy?
Yes.
Yep.
Whereas if you can give it a generous interpretation,
yep.
It'd be easier to move on, I would think.
Yep.
So generosity also affects, though, how you see your spouse more generally. There's a lot of general words in this.
Yes.
Thing. So generosity
you generated a lot of them when you were writing it.
Generosity reflects a willingness to focus on a spouse's strengths and work around his or her weaknesses.
Yep.
So what I love about this is that I think it becomes an upward spiral. Like we hear about the downward spiral of negativity, but if we're proactive with the generosity, we can cause an upward spiral of positivity.
Right.
So listen carefully here and tell me if you think this is right. So being able to view your spouse in this way of focusing on their strengths will increase your own happiness and satisfaction with the marriage. It will cause you to act in ways which are generous and increase your spouse's happiness. And if they're happier and then more generous, it will continue to increase their own marital happiness, cause them to act in ways to increase your happiness, and then on it goes.
Yep.
Is that out to lunch, or do you think that's right?
No, this is a positive cycle. So every marriage has a cycle, and this is a positive cycle for sure.
So being more generous can make your cycle more positive.
Right, which makes room for more generosity. This is what creates joy in marriage.
Oh.
This is how you create joy.
Okay.
Because it's like, wow, this person's doing stuff for me and that really feels good and I want to do stuff for her. Mm-hmm. And it's the upward spiral.
Yeah,
I'm liking
and then you're thinking of the other person. You're not so inwardly
self-absorbed.
Focused.
Yeah. It shifts your attitude in life too.
Yeah. So how can we increase our generosity?
Indeed.
In 2013, researchers identified 3 other personality factors which naturally led to more marital generosity.
Okay.
So these were...
Can I just jump in there? Because called them personality factors, but I think these are more like attitudes or something else.
Yes.
My concern is that if people are like, oh, I don't have that personality factor, so I'm pooched. Because personality feels like it's hard to shift.
Right.
So, let's go through these 3, and I think folks will see that these are
these
accessible.
Are things that, these are things that you could think or do.
Or shift your beliefs around.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not set in stone, and if you don't have it, you're pooched. I agree with you there.
Yep.
Okay, so first one was egalitarianism.
Okay.
So
sounds frightening.
That's the belief that fairly sharing out all the roles and responsibilities between both spouses is important.
Oh, that's a good belief.
And I was thinking about this one, and I think if I felt like I had to do the most work, then I would be less likely to be generous and help you out too.
Yes.
Like I'm already doing the most.
Yep.
Right? So then I become self-centered. But if I felt like we shared things fairly, then I'd be happy just to help you out. Like that's generosity.
Yep.
What do you think?
Well, I think actually the key word that you're using is felt, which ties back to what we said earlier from the other
household labor
studies that we do on household labor. Like it's the perception of fairness is so critical here.
Right. So that's where the conversation needs to come in.
Yeah. And I think where we get trapped in this is like there's, women's work in the house and men's work in the house kind of thing. You kind of have to watch that for one, right? Or that women run the house and men run the yard and the job or something like that.
Okay.
Like, guys can get socialized into that really easily, or most of us do come socialized that way, especially if we're a little bit older.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that you guys can't play to your strengths or that you can't have, a wife who prefers the inside work and a husband who prefers the outside work and you just want to do it that way, that's fine.
But it might be backwards, or not backwards, but it might be the other way where men prefer the inside work.
It all comes back to the perception piece. And that's where the conversation has to happen. Like, do you both feel that this is fair?
Right. Yeah. I would much rather be out on the tractor than doing dishes, just saying.
Well, me too. So we have a problem. Just going for the slam dunk.
Okay, so that's egalitarian.
So we'll share those two things, right? That's how we solve.
Right, because then it feels fair.
Right.
It's not like you always get the fun stuff and I'm stuck doing the dirty work.
Yep.
What was that look for?
Well, just, a little bit of bitterness coming through there maybe or something.
No, but I was just thinking like if...
Just you're passionate about the topic?
No, just listen to me.
Yes.
If I only did the inside work because it was, socially the woman's work.
Right.
And you always did the outside work, but I enjoyed the outside work, then I would feel...
resentful.
Yes.
Legitimately so.
And then I wouldn't feel like, oh, I want to be generous and help him out.
No.
It'd be like, he can go stuff it and do it himself.
Ooh, that's angry.
Yeah, so that's why we need this egalitarianism.
Okay.
We need to make that shift towards it. Second thing is commitment. So,
sold.
You're sold already?
Yeah. Sold to the guy with the angry wife.
Oh, come on.
No, I am sold.
All right.
Yep. Commitment.
Commitment. High levels of commitment to the marriage make spouses more likely to invest in each other through generosity.
Makes sense. I'm all in.
So commit 100%.
Well, yeah, if you're not sure if somebody's really into something, you're not going to pour into them.
No. And if you're not sure if you're into it, why would you pour anything?
Well, this is, are we really invested? So we're both going to hold back and not invest. And now you got a cycle going the other way, which is
negative cycle.
Yes.
And then you're going to see things and
it's good to sit back and really,
that's good.
If you don't try, you'll never know if going all in would have worked.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? Even if you compare this to a job, right? If you're on the way out of a job, you have your eye on another one, you're not going to go all in, right? No. It's going to be pulling away and it's going to reinforce the dissatisfaction and your coworker's dissatisfaction with you and yada yada, right? So whereas if you are committed, I'm going to make this work, it's a totally different viewpoint and totally different outcomes. Yep. Okay, third thing, egalitarianism, commitment. The third thing is faith. Okay. So the Bible teaches the virtue of putting others' needs before your own. So religious views naturally led to a more generous mindset. That was confirmed in the research. Cool. Yeah, which was really neat. So that's all from the research. So I thoroughly enjoyed looking at the topic of generosity with you, and I hope you'll join me this week and ongoing in putting it more into practice in your marriage, because I'm going to try hard here too. Ooh. But don't tell people how it goes. I have great expectations. Yeah. I will provide you a quarterly review. Yeah, right. So remember, generosity is a mindset. It's a way of thinking about your spouse, and it's also actions. So I'd love to hear what sneaky little ways you found to be generous to your spouse when they're least expecting it, or perhaps when they least deserve it. Except that you'll be thinking so generously of them that you won't even notice that they don't deserve it. Oh, awesome. All right. Sounds like a riot. Let's do it. A rat? Riot. Riot. Okay. Yes. Not a rat. That's what I was thinking. Good. I think you nailed that one out of the park, baby. Yeah. I enjoyed it. When you asked me to write it up, I was so nervous. I was almost sick. Now you're all excited and just kind of nailing it. All right. This is fun. We should do this again. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe you just rest your finger and get it all better. For me. My finger's really sore. Yeah, nice try. So we feel like I'm getting a cold. JK, LOL. So you might not even be alive next week then. Okay, we should do an episode on man colds and how to best, how wives can best help their husbands through man colds. I would be so busy gagging. Maybe I'll record that one. Yes. Sometime when you're sick. All right, let's wrap this up before it gets out of hand. Yes. Thank you to Maria and also Christopher, who became patrons between this recording and our previous one. Next week, Caleb, what are you talking about? It's not going to be as upbeat as this one. Rarely talked about, elusive topic. Okay. But unfortunately, all too real. We're talking about the abusive wife. Okay. Because so often when we talk about abuse, it's the male. Yeah. And we've been apologizing for that and telling people to switch genders for a while, but there are some nuances to it. Okay. And let me just drop this little bomb in there. Yeah. I saw a piece of research that said that police, when they're responding to incidents of domestic violence, and it's the wife who is the perpetrator or the instigator of the violence, that 22% of the time they will arrest the man for the ways in which he tried to defend himself. What? Yes. So there's an incredible bias against men in abusive relationships. Yes. Okay. Very interesting. Yep. Well, that is all for today's episode. Thank you for joining us. You can get the full show notes at oif.link/220. Find out how you can help marriages. Go to oif.support. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
The Marriage Podcast for Smart People is totally funded by listeners who support Caleb and Verlynda in their mission to save marriages. If you would like to be part of this worthy cause, open your web browser to oyf.support. A minimum investment of $10 per month will help restore hope to married couples. Plus, as a patron, you'll gain access to exclusive bonus content and valuable information to help you succeed in your own marriage. Go to the website oyf.support now for more information. Thanks for listening to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People from Only You Forever.